One of the things that we wanted to do for surfers is kind of like simplify the choices they have to make when they're building a quiver. You know what I mean? If they're going to be surfing bad waves, mediocre waves, good waves, if they're going to be traveling and getting really good surf, I wanted to simplify that by having a cohesive family of boards where you have a familiar feel across the range of waves. And so that's the idea with a happy family. So it started out with a Happy Performance shortboard, which is now the 2 Happy, the second iteration of that model. And then if you go down in surf quality or more just an everyday feel, you got the Happy Everyday. And if you're going into a really good wave situation or you're traveling, you want kind of a one board quiver or just a step up, then you'd go to the Happy Traveler. So we're trying to create this happy family of boards where you just know, okay, I resonate with the Happy. I know that rocker curve and that feeling. I'm going to grab everyone in the size range and be covered. So we're trying to serve the surfer well by making you feel comfortable in a range of waves and have that familiar feeling. The Happy Everyday came from a request from Stab. They were doing the Stab in the Dark with Taj Burrow, and they wanted a small wave performance board. And we've always had a few of those in the line, but I just was itching to do something fresh, something brand new. And Taj kind of inspired me. I've always been a huge fan of Taj's surfing. And so I just got inspired by the project, and I reached out to Dane Reynolds and said, hey, doing this thing for Stab. I'm not supposed to know it's Taj, but it's obviously Taj. I want to make a new small wave performance board. Will you help me? Will you test pilot? And he's like, yeah, cool. So we talked a little bit about what we were thinking on like the plan shape and the bottom and stuff. And then I just started firing them off. I think the first couple were hand shapes, and then we started from there. And he didn't like any of them. Dane didn't like any of them. I think we got to number 9, and he just wasn't liking them. And then the due date came for Stab, and I was like, oh man, I was so just like, I haven't hit it out of the park with Dane. I'm not sure what to do. But I had internally made some progress on the board and felt good about things and kind of where it was. So I just picked a version. I think it was 7 or 8 out of 9. Did one in Taj's dimensions and sent it over for Stab in the Dark. And he ended up liking it. You know, he chose it as the second best board, runner-up. And so that's kind of how it started. So thanks to that crew for getting this board going. Well, being that it was meant to be kind of a small wave performance board that turned into an everyday board, I wanted to keep the plan shape generous. So you can see the outline. There's more area in the nose than you would have on like your high performance shortboard. It's got a wider tail block than you would have. It's got a slight bump, sort of that Merrick hip right there, so that you've got a pretty good straight section through the middle of the board in the outline for planing surface and speed and driving off that area. And then it comes in behind the bump, but it stays pretty full back here. And the foil's pretty full too, right? It's full forward and full in the back. The idea being that it's just going to be easy to ride, easy to paddle. When you get up, you're not having to like create anything because it's got plenty of planing surface and plenty of volume. And then the rocker is sort of like what my dad would do, a staged rocker. So it's not so much a continuous curve. It's got a low entry rocker and a pretty straight rocker right in front of the fins in this area here that I kind of like to call the engine of the board, where you're really driving and thrusting off that area of the board that's between your feet. And then the rocker breaks right where the outline breaks. So the outline breaks at the bump and the rocker breaks at the same point. And it's actually got pretty generous curve out the back. So with that rocker, because it's low entry and flat through the middle, you've got a lot of speed, a lot of instant get up and go, but when you get on that back foot, it really pivots and comes off that rocker because it's got a fair amount of curve back there. And then for the contours, it's got just kind of a moderate single concave all the way through the front. Feels really positive when you push off the front foot, you know, feels like it pushes back just enough to kind of give you that spring and that pop. And that goes into a pretty generous double concave between the fins. That I feel like what that does for this board in particular is it allows it to have that sort of ball bearing effect off your back foot. And so when you're on the back foot of this board, you just kind of are doing that thing. It really responds to that rail to rail roll and then rolls over really easily. When it comes to ordering this board, you could ride it the same dimensions as your shortboard. You can do that, but you've got to realize it's going to be a bit more voluminous, right? There's more nose area and there's more tail area. So if you do that, it might start feeling a little big for you. So if you're more performance oriented, I think you want to step down an inch or two for this board, go a 1/4 inch wider. Maybe even 3/8 if you're going down 2 inches, and the same thickness as your normal shortboard because it'll carry plenty of volume. And I think that will feel similar to something like a 2 Happy, but it's going to be a little less board to move around, but it'll have plenty of volume and area for smaller waves.